All right, welcome to the podcast called The Outpost with a period. My name is Seprix, and this is Beyond Awesome here with me today. And we're going to
Hello.
start this new podcast for the Dominion Strategy blog.
Yep, it will be awesome. Beyond
Yes,
awesome, that
it will
is.
be beyond awesome, yes. So I thought we would start with a brief introduction, and I think we're going to try and do this with every guest we have on here. How they started playing Dominion, and how they came to find the blog or the or FDS, the Dominion Strategy Forum, or anything like that. I'll start with myself because I'm selfish. I was playing board games after school in the it was like a activities thing, and one day the teacher pulls out Dominion and he says he's super good at this game, he'll beat everybody at it, and he sets it down and we're playing like 4-player and he proceeds to thrash all of us. He does a great job. I didn't know like the first thing and I got destroyed. So I was so humiliated by that defeat that I figured, all right, I'm going to go home, look up some of these strategies and see what I can do. And I like crash read for like 4 days in a row. And then I think I discovered Dominion online, and I think I played a couple games of that. And then I bought the board game, and then eventually throughout that process I discovered FDS and the blog. And the funny thing was I never played Dominion in the activity after class thing again. It was just never brought again. So the original purpose for me doing all that never materialized, but I learned my favorite game, so I don't regret it at all. And now it is your turn.
Yeah, so I went to a meetup group, and the person brought Dominion, and so I played it, and I fell in love with it the first time. I absolutely loved the game, but the person taught me he was really bad, and I didn't know any better. So he was like, I don't understand this chapel card. He's like, I get that, he thought the only purpose of it was like to trash the curses of witch, and I didn't get it either. I was like, oh, okay. He's like, this card's really bad. And the guy, he bought coppers, so I bought coppers because I was just doing what he did. And, he greened really early, buy duchies. So I did what he did. So I bought duchies early. I didn't even buy provinces. He's like, provinces are too hard to reach. So I was a really bad player. The person who taught me how to play wasn't that great. And then I showed my mom the game, and she got the game. And shortly after, Intrigue. And I heard there were other expansions, so I went online. And on Board Game Geek, I saw the other expansions. And so I became fascinated by it. Then I found out that Isotropic existed, which hasn't existed for years now. But I started playing an Isotropic. This was right around the time Hinterlands came out. And then shortly after, someone on Isotropic told me about Dominion strategy, so I went there. I read a lot of the articles for about a month or two. Then finally, after that, I actually joined the forums, and well, that's pretty much my beginnings of getting into Dominion.
Yeah. So again, we're gonna try and ask this with every guest, just for a little community bonding thing. What this podcast is going to be about is generally we're going to cover the rare Dominion news, like Nocturne's coming out soon. We're going to cover the cards, so stick around whenever those drop. General discussion, Dominion related. We might cover some fan cards sometimes. Sometimes we might have some silly Dominion things to talk about. I mean, it's not going to be a super serious podcast, other than like the Nocturne and the actual discussion. And of course, before we cover what we're going to talk about today, I think it's prudent to do a bunch of shoutouts. First and foremost, we have to give a shout out to Theory for letting this even happen. he ran Dominion Strategy, the blog, for a very long time, and it kind of just stopped going. So, yeah, there's been kind of a demand for it to resurface, and Theory obliged and let the community run it. We're just running the blog. I'm sorry, the podcast. Beyond Awesome's kind of the lead, I would say. I'd almost put lead in quotations, but he's kind of the commander, I should say. And it was kind of his idea to do a podcast and all of this. Like, he helped put it all together. He did all the work. So, I mean, without him, this wouldn't have happened either. There's Dan Brooks, Tracer, McSeenock, Adam Horton, JSH, Wiro the Great, and a bunch of other people that helped write articles, give advice on what to do, give suggestions. Beyond Awesome and I and other people working on this, we all looked through it, and we're still taking suggestions for improvements and all of that. So, like, keep those coming, because those are very helpful. Is anyone I missed or did I get everybody?
Well, I mean, there's a lot of people. Like, we'd have to start pretty much naming everyone in the community, but I especially want to give a shout out to you, because you've put a lot of work. You're helping out the podcast and all of that, and you've done a lot of work already. And you also did the new banner. So
yeah, the old banner was really bad. I didn't want to make the banner. I wanted to find an artist, and maybe we'll still do that. It's a fine temporary banner, at least. I don't know.
It's better than what was there before.
For now, it'll work for now. That's the thing.
Yeah, and also I want to give a shout out to Titan Drake, because he wrote that post that pretty much led to, Theory said, okay, I'm gonna,
Oh yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, so that
forgot about that.
That was a pretty instrumental post right there. So
yeah, it really was. It really drove this discussion's been going on for a while. I've been having these discussions for a while with other people. Not always on the Dominion Discord, not the main thing. If you haven't joined that, please do. It's where the majority of conversations happen. But I've had this conversation, and I've been working on this solution for like months and months and months. I was gonna like start my own forum and all this convoluted stuff, and now this blog dropped. It's just way better. So I'm quite happy to have this blog happen, because it's gonna put more focus on the competitive aspects of Dominion. And anyway, so yeah, that's basically what the podcast is going to be about, the people who helped. And the thing we're going to cover today is just a bit of groundwork. We're going to cover the recent stuff that's happened with the Dominion 2nd Edition and the Intrigue 2nd Edition. People have been asking about these and what the changes were. And they're already on the Dominion Wiki, but we'll go over them briefly. And I mean very briefly. So firstly, the biggest change were
I want to say something.
Got removed.
I want to say something very quickly.
Oh yeah, sure.
So one thing that people have been asking a lot about are what are the differences between the second editions of not Intrigue and Base Set, which we're going to get to the Base Set and second Intrigue. So a lot of people, like, I heard that there's a second edition of like Seaside and Prosperity and all that coming out. So I want to quickly address that. So the Base Set and Intrigue have new cards and some old cards removed. The other expansions they have bolder text, some minor rewordings, but in general they're identical to the previous editions. There might be some errata here and there, but it's pretty small, except for in the case of Possession, which is addressed in the Empire's
rulebook. We'll get to
Possession. Yeah, that's a
Possession.
podcast on itself.
Yeah, if you thought Possession was complicated and annoying before, just wait until you discuss the update to it. Oh my god. But yeah, what Beyond Awesome said. Basically, there's just like little rules changes in the wordings of cards and stuff. There is actually one slight rules change, and we'll cover that as well. It's probably not going to matter the majority of times, but it is significant and it's worth noting. We'll talk about that after we briefly go over the removed cards, maybe a little bit why they're removed, and then look at the new cards for both of them. And I apologize if some of you have already seen these cards, but I figure it's a good idea to just go through them briefly. So with the base set, we have Adventurer gone. Beyond Awesome, why did Adventurer disappear?
Because it really does not do anything at all. It's just not a good card, which pretty much most of the removed cards are not that great. But I mean, it hits 2 treasure, which Moat draws you 2 cards, and you're paying 6 for terminal draw 2, and so Smithy draws 3 and it costs 4. And with Smithy, you're usually, you're getting to your good stuff. You're usually getting to your actions that you want to play. Whereas with Treasurer, you don't necessarily need to get to them, so it's overpriced. It really doesn't do anything for you. Oftentimes, gold is just better. Gold's non-terminal. If you really need the money, gold's non-terminal. A lot of time, Adventure, it's going to hit copper or silver copper, and it's probably, potentially probably the weakest card in the existence of Dominion, or definitely way up there. Yeah.
I think a good way to sum Adventurer up is it's Moat, but it costs 6, and it doesn't draw you actions. That's pretty bad. Next up is Thief. Thief is pretty. It's one of those 4 pillars of Dominion that everyone talks about, with Witch, Chapel, Thief, and what was the 4th one?
Gardens.
It was
Gardens.
I'm sorry?
Gardens.
Yeah, that one. So with Thief, it doesn't do much for you. Usually when you play it, it just trashes the opponent's coppers, and usually they're quite happy about that. So yeah, it just thins your opponent's deck most of the time, and once you get over losing your coppers and you realize trashing is good, Thief quickly drops from everybody's power rankings in their mind. About the only positive thing about Thief that Thief does really well still to this day is it will trash specialty treasures. It'll trash Platinum. It'll trash Capital. It will trash Crown. It will hit those cards. Neither Bandit... Well, maybe Bandit does. I can't remember. I'd have to read the word.
Yeah, Bandit trashes it, but Thief will steal it.
Yeah. Yeah, but Thief gains it. That's the nice thing. Thief gains it in addition to trashing it. Noble Brigand doesn't, though. But, yeah. So, I mean, Bandit does half of what Thief is really nice at. But Thief can sometimes gain you some Platinums. And it's sometimes worth picking up then. But 99% of the time, it's pretty awful. Overall, I can't say I miss it that much. There's Spy. Why is Spy bad?
I mean, it's not that it's bad, it's just it does nothing. I mean, its effect is weak, and it just takes up time. You do the top deck inspection, and just honestly, I haven't even noticed that it's been missing from Dominion, and it doesn't, you don't even really miss the card. It just it was like a non-existent card is the best way to describe it.
Yeah, Spy's really meh. It takes a lot of time. I think out of all the missed cards, I'm probably the happiest to see this one gone, because for some reason people continue to buy it, and it takes so much time. Jeez, it's Scrying Pool, but worse, because Scrying Pool is at least a good card, but it's just, Anyway, the next one is Feast, and Feast is alright. It's just kind of boring. A lot of people, they'd rather open double silver than silver feast. And on average, that's probably better. Although, now with the advent of engines becoming better and better, I don't know whether that's even true. Maybe feast would be a better opening now. But I don't know. I don't miss feast. I don't care about it. It's boring. It's basically just it's a somewhat guarantee against it's a decent guarantee against not hitting 5 on your next shuffle, because you'll just play it and it's like hitting 5. I could see opening feast and a trasher over like a trasher and a silver. Like, it's got stuff. I mean, it's not the worst. It probably could have stayed, but I don't really care about it. And then I guess you can cover woodcutter and chancellor. They're both pretty similar-ish.
Yeah, woodcutter, chancellor. Woodcutter is probably the best card that was cut. I mean, I'm still buying Herbalist a pretty reasonable amount of the times, and whenever I buy Herbalist, like, man, I'm pretty much buying woodcutter, which I don't know what that says, but
if you even think about woodcutter.
Well, usually when I buy Herbalist, I do think about woodcutter for whatever reason, because they're like the same thing, just Herbalist gives you one less, but you're usually buying it for the buy anyway, not for the money that it gives you. So,
yeah.
I mean, it's terminal. It doesn't. It's pretty boring. There's just more interesting things, and Chancellor. It was good for. I mean, it's reasonable deck cycler. It's if there's not very many terminals on the board, you're not going to have a lot of terminals, or you can play a lot of terminal cards. Chancellor is usually a reasonable opener. But it's just not that great. I mean, Scavenger just does what Chancellor does so much better, and then you have Messenger, which pretty much combines Woodcutter and Chancellor. And
yeah, I mean, that should have been the case from the beginning.
Yeah, that
Chancellor
really should have been. Yeah,
should have just been the same card. Yeah,
and at 3
then
costs,
Messenger is literally the same card, but sometimes you get some crazy gains with it, so it's funny.
Yeah. Well, I mean, a Chancellor Woodcutter together could have been a three cost card, and it would have been. It still wouldn't be that great. I mean, it would still be pretty weak.
Yeah, it'd be all right. Oh, you know what? A card I haven't thought about in a long time. Stash.
Oh,
it's because they still haven't implemented it. Remember Stash? That used to be a card.
I don't think stuff wants to implement it.
They haven't implemented it yet, so like Scavenger Stash, remember that power combo?
Yeah, that's actually pretty reasonable.
It's really good, actually. Chancellor Stash even isn't that terrible. You can't top deck another Stash, so it's still slowish, but it's still decently fast. It's been a long time since I've even thought about it, though. Anyway, we're going to cover the new cards now, briefly. Probably briefer than the why the old ones were gone. Harbinger, it's +1 card, +1 action. You look through your discard pile, you can put a card from your discard onto your deck. It's better towards the bottom of your shuffle than towards the top. It's really nice with the Page and Peasant line because it helps you cycle through those. In my experiences, I've tried using it with that, and generally I've not been successful, but if you can pull it off, it's a lot faster. The less trashing you have, the better Harbinger gets. Although, if it's still towards the top of your deck, it's still pretty useless. It's overall it's more of a tactical card. It's not gonna... It can win you games with like crazy plays. If you land it towards the bottom and you need a certain card guaranteed, then you draw it and you can use it. It's solid. I think overall, it's not a card anyone is gonna think about that much, but I mean that's most of Dominion, honestly. Yeah, it's solid, I think. And you can cover Merchant.
Well, Merchant, it's plus a card, plus an action, and then if you play the first silver in a turn, you get a coin. So it's usually a $3 peddler as long as you have silver. It's pretty reasonable. And like Poacher, it's a pretty pretty simple card, which I think fits very nice in the base set. I mean, I think some people are like, these cards aren't that, exciting, but I think that's okay.
It's kind of the point of them.
Yeah, but it's a pretty reasonable card. It's pretty good in engines because usually in an engine you have a pretty thin deck and usually you have 1 silver, and so merchants can be pretty, okay payload for you.
Oh yeah. A thing to note, it's a slight rules thing with merchant that someone might get tripped up on. If you play a silver with Black Market or Villa or Storyteller, and then you play a bunch of merchants, you're not going to get any money from them because it's only the first time you play a silver. And that already happened, so yeah, you're not going to get any money from those merchants again. So that's just something to keep in mind, because I've played Storyteller merchant games. It's happened. And I've been decently surprised before, so look out for that. The next one is Vassal. And Vassal's an interesting one. I think people underrate it because it's a terminal, but it gives you 2 coin. You discard the top card of your deck, and if it's an action card, you can play it. It costs 3. And the reason I think people underrate it is because it's a terminal. If you whiff, if you don't hit an action card with it, or if you hit another terminal with it, your turn ends, and then that's it. You don't get to play more cards, so it's a little scary. That being said, I think there's a future for mass vessel decks. I've seen them work before, and I talk with Dan Brooks all the time, and he's kind of has like this fascination with Vassal decks, and it's been paying off for him. So there's probably, you should look more into Vassal and look to open Vassal, because even opening Vassal is fine, unless it skips your silver, because it's a decent cycler. You can open Vassal silver, and most likely it's going to skip a copper, or even better, an estate. Just slightly cycles you, so it's usually quite nice. And then you have Poacher.
Well, like Merchant, it's a peddler variant, +1 card, +1 action, plus a coin. And then for every pile that's empty, you discard a card. So when one pile runs out, it becomes Oasis, or as some people call it, Poasis.
Oasis.
Poasis, yeah.
I've never heard that one.
I don't know. Someone made that up before, and I like it. It actually works. And then if there's 2 piles, you discard 2, and if for some reason you have 3 or more piles gone, and the game hasn't ended, because I don't know, it's
4-player,
or it's still your turn, then you'll discard 3 cards. It's pretty much
usually it doesn't get to.
I mean, having 2 or 3 in your deck is perfectly good, and I mean, usually at worst it becomes an Oasis. So, and towards the end of the game, almost always, there'll at least be 1 pile gone in a game. So, but really, very rarely does the discard 2 come into play, unless you have a bunch of them. Which, I mean, you don't want to buy a bunch of poachers usually, but. I mean, that's usually not a problem. I guess maybe if you were trying to do like some weird like Watchtower library thing, I could see that happening, maybe. But
yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's reasonable.
Yeah, Poachers. There's not much to write about it. If you like Peddler, you'll like Poacher. Bandit. Bandit is an improved Thief. It's what Thief has always wanted to be. It gains you a gold. It trashes any treasure other than copper, so that's platinums and crowns. Not to be confused with Noble Brigand, which doesn't trash anything other than gold and silver. But the only thing is you don't gain it like you did with Thief, as we discussed before. Bandit it's fine. I'm glad it's in the set. It's gonna be a noob trap because it's Thief, but it gains you gold. So there's going to be that, it's overpowered thing all over again, even though it costs 5. Really, it's pretty underwhelming. And usually I found when I gained it, it's not because of the attack. It's usually because of the gold. Even then, it's kind of eh. Because there's Courtier, as we'll cover later. That's a Intrigue 2nd edition card. That also gains you golds. There's Soothsayer. I'd say this card is... Well, it's better at gaining golds than Soothsayer, for sure. Soothsayer still might be a stronger card, because cursing is cursing. But you've got Sentry.
Yeah, Sentry, if you get 5-2, it's just really busted. And if you get 5-2 and your opponent doesn't, you're probably going to win.
I wouldn't go that far, but yeah, the probability is pretty high.
Yeah, it's a really good trasher. I think people underestimate Sentry as a trasher. A lot of times, it's going to trash at least one card, which is pretty good because Junk Dealer trashes one card. Yeah, you get a coin off of it, but Upgrade also trashes the card and from your hand, and you don't get a coin from Upgrade. Sometimes you get a poorhouse.
Yeah,
you're like, wait, where did that come? Where did that come from? I mean, you can upgrade it. Yeah.
Sorry. Continue.
Oh, you Upgrade can turn estates into stuff. I mean, Upgrade has neat tricks you can do with it, but I mean, Sentry.
Oh yeah.
Has the top decking ability. You can discard cards. And as far as trashers go,
it retains its usefulness throughout the
Yeah.
game, which is always fine. Even if it just trashed,
yeah,
and you couldn't discard, it'd still be really nice. I think the thing with Sentry is people envisioned it being like one of the best trashers of all time, and then when it starts hitting stuff as you get thinner, you start devaluing it more. So almost underrating it, I would say, because of bad experiences. But I mean, Sentry is just really nice. The last card out of the base set 2nd edition is Artisan, and it's one of my favorites. It's so tactical, it's so useful, it's probably better than Alter. You gain a card from your hand. You gain a card to your hand. What you're holding, costing up to 5. So you don't just gain it, you put it into your hand, which is really nice. Then you put a card from your hand onto your deck, so you top deck it. So there are a lot of tactical decisions you can do with Artisan. You can gain a silver and top deck a different card by a key card you want. That's pretty stupid though, because you have an Artisan, but you can do things like that. You can gain a potion, buy a vineyard, set up your next turn, put a minion on top. There's just so many things you can do. And again, it draws comparisons to Alter, because Alter has the same cost. They both cost 6. They both gain 5 costs. Alter trashes a card. Alter is very powerful. Artisan is probably more powerful because of the 2-hand gaining. The only thing Alter would be better at is if there's no other trashing. Then I would get an Alter over an Artisan. But that's hypothetical. They're both really good cards. That's basically the base set. We could go briefly over the removed cards in Intrigue.
Mm-hmm.
There is Secret Chamber. You can talk about that one. I don't want to talk about Secret Chamber.
Yeah, alright. Well, I can sum it up with one word, yuck.
Yuck. That's a good one.
I mean, but...
That's a good word.
Yeah. It's just overly wordy, and it doesn't really do anything for you. The reaction is just... It's a bad reaction. It's just... the reaction doesn't do anything for you, and it makes people think way too much for nothing. And its really only use ever for Secret Chamber was in Scry Pool decks, where you're able to discard all your actions and then draw them back up, or Tactician decks, assuming that you can actually draw more cards with the Tactician. Otherwise, you just get, 7 with it, I think, because you have, you have 10 cards in your hand.
Yeah.
I don't know, but... I mean, Secret Chamber is just not it's not great. It's bad. It's
outside of its niche uses and Scrying Pool and Tactician, it's pretty awful. Great Hall is pretty boring. It's just an estate that is a cantrip. There's really not much to say about it. It's fun when you gain it with Ironworks and sometimes with Silk Road, but for the most part, I don't care about Great Hall. Coppersmith. This is like the favorite out of everybody when they talk about cards that disappear. And I feel kind of an infection towards it because you think I can do a combo with this. I can make Coppersmith work. Copper produces an extra $1 this turn. If Coppersmith had a plus buy, would it still be worth keeping around? I think yes.
It would definitely be better with plus buy, that's for sure.
Yeah. Then, like, the King's Court Coppersmith stuff would be even better. That's, like, the best-case scenario for Coppersmith, King's Court. It'd actually be a pretty decent opening if you could open Coppersmith Copper. Then you could, like, spike 6 with it, because usually you'll draw, like, 3 coppers in a state in Coppersmith. Like, it'd probably be really nice then, because then you could... I don't know. Even with the plus buy, I don't know. That's something I'd like to try, though.
I think most of the time, the people will be buying it just for the plus buy.
Yeah, I feel like that. But that would make Coppersmith alright. It'd be a $4 ruined market. I mean, we already have a $3 ruined market. It's called Farmer's Market. People buy that for the plus buy. So the next one, and you're lucky because it's your turn and you get to talk about everyone's favorite card, Scout.
Oh man, Scouts.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, the greatest thing about Scout is all the memes that exist for it.
Yeah. Memes are really nice.
But I mean, the card was really bad. I mean, it's good with, say, Apothecary, where you can get rid of those estates that were on top of your deck, I guess. Or it was good, I guess, for kind of Wishing Well. But really, that's why I said kind of Wishing Well. Like, I don't ever think I actually bought it with Wishing Well. It's supposed to have synergies with Intrigue, but it really
Nobles
doesn't.
And Harem.
It really doesn't. It doesn't do anything. It just it's something that when you swindle a forecast, you give them a Scout. That's what you do. That's
the best use of Scout. It's swindler fodder. Oh man, that's how low Scout has gone. Scout is probably the second worst card behind Adventurer. Man, Scout is so bad. Saboteur mainly got cut because it's weakish and it's pretty unfun. Oh man, you had a province. Well, tough luck, it got hit. You're probably getting a duchy. Oh, your silver got hit. Well, I guess you're getting a copper. I mean, it just makes people cry. And then there's a couple annoying pins, and then there's King's Court Saboteur. It's just like, I hate Saboteur so much. I'm so glad it's gone. It's probably one of my least favorite cards. And you get the final one, Tribute. And Tribute is also another one I kind of wouldn't mind keeping.
Well, yeah, I don't miss Saboteur, but getting on the Tribute. So if you discard actions, you get two. Well, you discard 2 cards, and if you discard an action, it's like you get 2 actions for every action discarded. Money gives you 2 money, I believe. So it's like up to 4 money, and then victory cards draws you cards. The problem with Tribute is actually getting it to work. Especially if it's the only village on the board, then you can just play big money, and the other player's kind of screwed.
Yeah, it's kind of true, isn't it? Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I never thought about that.
Well,
I probably should have, but I haven't seen Tribute in such a long time.
Yeah, well, I learned that from Wandering Winter's money videos, because Wandering Winter is really big into big money. So whenever Tribute was the only village, you just play big money, and he'd be like, "Oh, I'm not worried about it." You know, they're like, "You're not going to get any villages off of it." And a lot of times too, let's say both players are going for the engine, which the only purpose to get Tribute was as a village. That's really the only point.
Yeah. There were a couple games I've seen where there's like both tribute and nobles on the board, and tribute's like really good then because you get encampment effect or a lost city effect just from one card, and you can potentially get something else too. Tribute is really good in intrigue games, but outside of intrigue, it's pretty awful.
Yeah, and it's very swingy because one person hits money, the other person hits the actions, and
yeah.
And you mentioned Lost City,
that's kind of.
But Lost City costs the same amount, and Lost City is just better.
Yeah. That's kind of a funny mini theme with intrigue, swinginess, because you have torturer. Man, whoever gets that torturer chain off first just wins. Whoever gets luckier with tribute, whoever gets luckier with swindler. Intrigue is the swing set.
Whoever gets luckier with scout.
Yeah.
As in, whoever doesn't buy it probably gets luckier.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, the cards added to Intrigue are some of the best Dominion cards ever, I would say. They're really well designed. The first one's Lurker, and I get to talk about it. That's fun. I wrote an article on Lurker. Shameless plug. Lurker is really fun. It's also a really hard card to talk about because there's so much you can do with it. It's non-terminal, so you can play multiples of Lurker. You can trash an action card from the supply, or you can gain an action card from the trash. So if you have 2 in hand, it's like a workshop, but you can gain any action. You can gain possession. It's super good. And if there's possession and Lurker on the board, you better just buy nothing but Lurkers and points, because it's going to be a degenerate game. Yeah, there's a lot you could do with Lurker. There really is. I would just say that unless you have a good reason, you shouldn't open it. But when you open it, it's pretty obvious when you should. Like with Hunting Grounds, Cultist, Possession. If there's like a trash card from Dark Ages and Lurker on the board, I would have alarm bells sounding off, because there's a lot of really good combos with Lurker and Dark Ages. It's a really powerful card, but it can also be misused, is what I would say about it. You get Diplomat.
Oh, yeah, Diplomat. I love Diplomat. It is a really good card that people do not buy enough of. Pretty much, if there's an attack that's really good, you want Diplomat because it's going to become a lost city. You play, you use reaction effect, play Diplomat, play a terminal, play Diplomat, play another terminal, play another Diplomat. If there's anything that is non-terminal, like say Candlestick Maker on the board, or something like anything like that, then Diplomat also becomes good. Like a lot of times, there are ways to make it into a lost city for 4 that doesn't have your opponent draw a card when you buy it. So it's a really good card, and people don't buy enough of it from what I've seen.
Yeah, I agree. Diplomat's one of my favorites, actually. If you get militia'd, you can get 2 free Diplomat plays out of it, which is really nice. Next is Mill, and I've always liked Mill. People used to hate Mill, but now they love it. Mill is basically Great Hall, but you can get money out of it. You can discard 2 cards for $2, and people called this an underwhelming card, a weak card. It's basically why you would ever open Horse Traders to hit 5. It's really good at hitting 5. Like, opening Mill Silver is a very good opening. It cycles you a little bit, and you're probably discarding an estate with a copper. It's such a solid card, and it's so much better. It's so much more tactically useful. It's not just a cantrip. You have options. It's great. I don't know why people were ever against Mill. They were like, oh, I miss Great Hall, and Mill costs 1 more than that. It costs $4. Anyway, I haven't seen any Mill hate lately. So
Mill's great. It's really, really good.
They've come around they've come around to make a pun because it's a mill. You get Secret Passage. That's a fun one.
Yeah, Secret Passage. Well, the one thing that people don't realize about Secret Passage is that you're not actually increasing your hand size. So in really thin decks, it's not that great. You usually want maybe 1, 2 at most. I see people overbuy it. So Secret Passage says, plus 2 cards, plus an action. Then you can take a card from your hand and put it anywhere in your deck. So you can put it at the bottom, you can put it at the top. It's good for putting junk at the bottom to niche the shuffle, and it's good, like, let's say you can't play a certain card, or you have too many cards, like you have like more money than you need for the turn. You can put a silver back on top of your deck, or whatever. I mean, it's
you could set up turns with it.
Yeah, you can set up turns with it.
It's tactical. It's not gonna
Yeah.
You can put cards up front for Sentry to trash, or for Scout to pick up, or for Doctor to trash. Like, it's not going to win any games by itself, per se, but it will give you an advantage if you use it correctly.
Yes.
I think it's a very tactical card. The next one is Courtier. And Courtier is a very, very weird card. It's the only of its kind, I think. You reveal a card from your hand. For each type it has, like action type, attack type, victory, you can choose one of these options. You have +1 action, +1 buy, or 3 coins, or gain a gold. And the choices all have to be different. So if you, say, reveal Militia, which is action and attack, you can't pick 2 + 3. You have to pick 1 action and +3, or buy and a gold. It's not a very great card, but it's not a bad card. And that's how you know it's like a really well-designed card, because there are some really cool combos you can pull off with this. Like, any duration attack, like Enchantress or Bridge Troll, Courtier's going to love it. And with how many durations and attacks there are, usually when you have Courtier, you're going to have it paired with at least a card with 2 different types. And there's usually the joke that this card buffed Dame Josephine because it has 4 types as victory, knight, action, and attack, and you can use all 4 with Courtier. There's usually that joke. So let's get that one out of the way. And you get Patrol. That's a good one.
Patrol.
They're all good.
Yeah. I mean, Patrol's good. It's +3 cards, and you take any victory card. You reveal, I believe, was the top 4 cards, and put whatever victories into your hand. So
victory or
curse. That's right. So
curse cards too. Yeah.
So it's the replacement for Scout, and it's definitely better. So as far as draw cards, it's really good. It gets good, especially later if you start greening and you can't, decks where you may be buying 1 or 2 provinces a turn.
Yeah.
It's pretty good at...
People look at it and say, wow, this can draw me 7 cards. This is broken. But, I mean, if your deck is that bloated to where you draw 7 cards from it every time, your deck's probably not that great to begin with.
Or it's a really weird game.
That being said... Yeah, but that being said, like, Patrol is really nice. Even just the reordering on top is really nice.
Yeah, the only problem with Patrol is that it does compete with a lot of other terminal draw cards. There's, you have Wharf, you have Haunted Woods, you have what's the new one from Empire?
Oh, yeah, Haunted Woods. Patrol really hates Haunted Woods. That's true.
You have Rabble. I mean, there's just a lot of other terminal draw cards that will often appear in the game. So Patrol is competing with them, so it's not the strongest terminal draw. And usually its effect is better, towards later in the game when you start to green.
Yeah, that's when it really shines, I think. It's good. And the last card is Replace, and I don't see enough people playing Replace. Replace is a really good card. Like, so incredibly good. Um, man, where do I even start with replace? For one thing, people could be playing replace rushes more. On junky decks with replace, trash your silvers into duchies, trash your golds into provinces, trash your coppers into estates, and get like 3 replaces. It's surprisingly effective. It's stronger than ill-gotten gains for sure. Like, this card is better than ill-gotten gains, and it does like the same thing. That's like a thing you should always look out for. Replace is very tactical. You can top deck cards, you can trash an estate, top deck a silver or a secret passage or other things. You trash anything, turn it into a victory point, and it's an extra point in swing. You can trash a gold into a province. That's a 7-point swing. It's not just a province. It's your opponent gets a junk card in their deck too. You can trash province into province and curse somebody. Like, it's such a good card. People don't use it and as often as they should, and I'm guilty of this too. Like, replace is so nice. It's one of my favorites.
Yeah, it is a really good card.
Yeah, it's really good. It's definitely worth 5. So yeah, we're already going on 46 minutes. We wanted to do this for only like 30 minutes, so we're gonna go through the formatting changes like really quickly and then wrap up. We probably won't even talk about possession. That could be another day.
Yeah.
I don't even want to talk about possession. But essentially, these are the universal changes. Bigger font is used on cards that don't have a lot of text. They is used instead of he. The pluses in the body of text are now in bold, so whenever it says +1 action, those are bold. So it's like little tiny differences. Card texts are more carefully centered than ever before. I mean, it's like tiny aesthetic changes. And if it were just that, it probably wouldn't be worth buying. In addition to these, there have been some wording changes. For the most part, it's just to clarify cards. They do the same thing. Nothing really changes. The really big changes are cards like Moneylender, Throne Room, and Mine. They're not... they have you may. So, with Moneylender, you may trash a copper from your hand. Before, you were forced to. Throne Room, before you were forced to. When you played a Throne Room, you're forced to play an action card from your hand, and sometimes you'd get screwed from that. Now you don't have to do it at all. You can just play it and do nothing. Same thing with Mine. You don't have to trash a treasure. Mainly those were added for accountability purposes, but Masquerade. Masquerade was changed so that players with no cards in hand are skipped, so there's no more nasty pins with Masquerade. Embargo was changed so that each curse gained per token on a pile is a separate event, rather than gaining them all at once. Outpost was changed to a function in a similar way to Mission. Possession was changed so that the possessing player also receives all tokens gained. So yeah, I guess we are going to briefly talk about Possession. There you go. That's basically the rules change. So basically that means anytime you play a monument on a possessed turn, it helps the possessor. It doesn't help the possessed. So beforehand, you would get monuments to guard and bishops to guard against possession. That doesn't work anymore. So it's a cruel change, but it's that or you get pinned with debt all day long. So either way, possession's gonna suck. Hashtag ban possession. Trade route was changed to trash before gaining the money, which matters if trashing a card that can gain victory cards when trashed. So if you trash a hunting grounds and you didn't gain an estate, you can now gain an estate, then you get the money from it instead of the other way around. So that's a cute little change. Scheme was changed so that you can no longer choose actions that are not discarded that turn, such as durations. A few cards did not receive functional changes, but instead had their wording changed to match their intended function, where previously it was slightly ambiguous, and these are even less important. Nomad Camp was changed to make clear that it doesn't visit, as previously its wording matched villas, which does visit. Like, explaining that would take so long. It's something like that almost never comes up, and man, we're going on 50 minutes.
Yeah.
We'll talk about that another day. Coin of the Realm, Royal Carriage, may now refer to finishing playing an action, as opposed to resolving, which had never been referenced on any other card, so basically it's just unifying. Black Market now explicitly says the player may play treasures before playing a Black Market card. Pretty nice. Envoy now says put in hand rather than draw, matching its intended function to ignore the +1 card token. Stash lets you look at what remains of your deck when you shuffle, in order to retain its function despite the new rule. And there is one slight rule change. Again, it's not often going to come up. But basically, if you are approaching the end of your shuffle and you play a card, instead of drawing the 2 cards, shuffling your deck, and then drawing a card, you now check your deck every time. If there is less than the amount of cards you're going to be able to draw, you instead shuffle your discard into your deck. You put the cards on top of your deck, and then you just draw. That's basically it. Nothing really changes except with like stash. So that's it. That's pretty much all the changes with the second edition. Just little rewordings, aesthetic changes. For the most part, the game's been pretty untouched. And that basically covers it for the second edition. So don't be afraid when there's a new Seaside coming out that you're missing out on new cards, because there aren't any new cards.
Yeah.
That's basic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The less bendy version of Adventures is out though.
Yes, the less bendy version of Adventures is out, if you have not replaced it already. Another thing is, if you just want the new cards, you can buy those for like anywhere from $10 to $13. It's all over the internet. There's like Dominion base set upgrade packs or Intrigue upgrade packs. So you don't have to buy the whole set. You can just buy the new cards, and then you can put the old cards inside of the new box and store them away forever. Or you can keep using them. I don't know why you would, but you can. There's no crime for using cards that have been discarded. I mean, there's Coppersmith. So yeah, if you haven't gotten those, you can get them. They've been out for a while. And that about wraps up the podcast.
Yeah.
It's gone longer than we wanted to. But
yeah. Well, that's it. So thank you everyone for tuning in, and join us next week.
Yeah, we're gonna try and get a guest next time. That's the plan. We might not. We'll see. We'll see what happens. And if we do get a guest, it could be a high-profile guest. So stick around. You never know. Thanks for watching. Actually, thanks for listening. Although you could be watching.